Jimin secretly meets Bang Si Hyuk, and Jungkook was left speechless. Is this the turning point of K-pop's global dominance or a brewing crisis? On a blazing July afternoon in Seoul, when most of South Korea was settling into the lull of a typical summer day, a shadow moved silently across the rear entrance of HYBE's headquarters in Yongsan. Without warning and without ceremony, a black SUV pulled into the discreet, rarely used side gate, a passage reserved only for movements that demand secrecy. But on that particular day, discretion had its limits. Because what followed was not only captured by paparazzi, but instantly detonated across Korean and international media. Park Jimin, global icon, BTS member, and face of Dior, was seen exiting the building alongside none other than Bang Si Hyuk, the elusive architect of the BTS empire. Why was this moment so unnerving? Because Jimin is still enlisted in the South Korean military, a period usually devoid of public appearances, let alone covert meetings with the top executive of one of the world's most powerful entertainment conglomerates. And yet, there he was, composed but undeniably tense, walking just a step behind Bang, whose expression was unreadable. It wasn't the type of meeting that was meant to be seen, but it was. And what the cameras captured was enough to send a jolt through the global K-pop ecosystem. Why now? Why them? Why there? The encounter, brief yet seismic, immediately triggered a whirlwind of speculation. Whispers began. Was this tied to Dior's high-stakes 2026 Asia-Pacific campaign? Was Jimin being called back to lead an unprecedented global branding effort, even before his discharge? Or was this something far more explosive? Some believed the meeting involved a potential post-military BTS reunion project. But others, those who have long observed the intricate relationship between global luxury, Korean entertainment, and corporate strategy, saw something more calculated, more volatile. This wasn't just about fashion or music. This was about power. According to multiple industry insiders, the presence of Bang Si Hyuk, a man notorious for avoiding public appearances with idols unless absolutely necessary, confirmed one thing. Something monumental was unfolding behind closed doors. Jimin wasn't merely a guest. He was central to whatever operation was being set into motion. Almost immediately, rumors began to metastasize. Some claimed Jimin was being scouted to lead a joint Dior-HYBE venture, a possible creation of a luxury sublabel with his identity at the forefront. Others pointed to HYBE's recent moves in Japan, particularly in Ginza and Shibuya, areas where Dior is aggressively scouting new flagship stores. Coincidence? Not likely. HYBE has invested heavily in infrastructure in these regions, leading analysts to suspect a cross-industry alliance involving music, fashion, and market domination in Asia. Then came the image that shattered all remaining doubt. An Instagram story uploaded by a high-ranking Dior executive the same evening blurred silhouettes of two men, one clad in black, the other sporting unmistakable silver hair. The caption? Just 3 cryptic words. It's almost time. Fans exploded. Bang and Jimin trended worldwide. Dior's stock price saw a measurable uptick the next morning. But what stunned observers most wasn't the frenzy. It was the silence that followed. No statements.
No denials.
No clarifications. This was not a PR stunt. This was strategic ambiguity. A calculated silence meant to build pressure and control narrative flow. Industry experts immediately began parsing the potential implications. Was Jimin being positioned not just as Dior's muse, but as a creative force? A potential co-designer? A brand architect? Some sources suggested that LVMH executives had personally reviewed design proposals tied to an upcoming capsule collection dubbed Gem Noir, an avant-garde merger of Parisian elegance and Jimin's unmistakable modern edge. The gravity of the situation deepened when Bang Si Hyuk himself posted a single word on X, formerly Twitter, eternal. No image. No context. Was this a declaration of legacy? A quiet confirmation that whatever had transpired behind HYBE's walls was not temporary, or a personal message to Jimin. Fans were divided. Some saw it as validation of Jimin's rising creative authority. Others saw warning signs. Jungkook's reaction, however, would ignite a second wave of speculation. Sources close to the situation report that Jungkook, currently in discussions regarding his solo project's international expansion, was visibly surprised when briefed about the secret meeting. He had not been informed beforehand. While no tensions have been confirmed, observers are questioning the internal dynamics within BTS and HYBE. Is Jimin being positioned differently than the rest? Is a new hierarchy emerging within the group? Or is this simply about individual opportunities? The implications are staggering. If Jimin becomes more than a performer, if he transitions into a creative director or brand co-founder, it would represent a seismic shift in how K-pop idols are integrated into global business ventures. It would shatter the traditional boundaries of celebrity endorsement and place Jimin on par with the likes of Rihanna, Kanye West, and Pharrell Williams, artists who became institutions. But not everyone is celebrating. Online discourse has turned increasingly polarized. While many admire Jimin's rise and believe this is the natural evolution of his artistry, others fear exploitation. Has Bang Si Hyuk crossed a line by entangling a military-serving idol into high-stakes commercial negotiations? The hashtag #FreeJimin began circulating on niche fan forums, suggesting concerns that Jimin's artistic identity may be overshadowed by corporate interests. Critics argue that HYBE may be leveraging Jimin's global appeal for an aggressive expansion into luxury fashion, a move that could commodify his persona beyond recognition. Still, others point to Bang Si Hyuk's unwavering belief in Jimin. In a resurfaced 2022 interview, Bang famously stated, "If I had to bet my career on the fashion sense of one idol, it would be Jimin, without hesitation." That quote now resonates like prophecy, but the deeper question lingers. Is Jimin at the center of all this because he wants to be, or because he has to be? With Dior Korea's Instagram teasing a velvet box embroidered with a barely visible J, in calligraphy nearly identical to Jimin's known handwriting, the signal is unmistakable. Something is coming, and it's likely irreversible. If the theories prove true, Jimin is no longer just Dior's global ambassador. He may soon become its co-creator, or worse, or better, its symbol. And if Bang Si Hyuk is involved at the executive level, as alleged, this could mark the beginning of a new entertainment industrial complex where idols aren't just talents, they are brands, shareholders, and visionaries. Meanwhile, tensions continue to escalate. A dinner sighting between a Dior executive and Min Hee-jin, the contentious mastermind behind New Jeans, has further complicated the narrative. Is a larger HYBE fashion alliance forming behind the scenes? Is this about Dior and Jimin? Or is a new global luxury label, perhaps based in Tokyo, being quietly forged? The stakes couldn't be higher. In a world where perception is currency and silence is strategy, the partnership between Jimin and Bang Si Hyuk is sending tremors through the core of the K-pop and fashion industries alike. Is this a cultural renaissance? A corporate overreach? Or a silent coup? All that is known is this: the moment that SUV pulled up, something shifted. In a single, quiet afternoon in Yongsan, the future of global fashion, music, and branding may have begun to rewrite itself. With Jimin and Bang Si Hyuk at the helm and Jungkook watching from the shadows, waiting to see what his next move should be. Stay tuned. The silence is loud for a reason. The aftermath of silence, unpacking the enigma behind Jimin and Bang Si Hyuk's secret meeting, truth, strategy, or manufactured illusion. What began as a fleeting sighting in the shadowed corridors of Yongsan has now expanded into a global narrative, yet one that remains disturbingly ambiguous. As images of Park Jimin and Bang Si Hyuk circulate with mounting speed and speculation, we are compelled not just to observe, but to interrogate. Is this an unprecedented evolution of influence between K-pop and high fashion, or have we become witnesses, perhaps even participants, in a spectacle designed to manipulate public sentiment under the guise of authenticity. With millions of fans mobilizing across TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and lesser-known media platforms, the sheer volume of discourse surrounding this encounter has elevated it beyond entertainment. It now borders on cultural phenomenon. But herein lies the critical question: do we believe this because it is real, or do we believe it because we have been told to believe? The boundary between reality and orchestration is increasingly blurred, and it is within this uncertainty that manipulation thrives. An official statement has been released. No direct confirmation. And yet, the momentum of belief grows. The public's eagerness to accept that a military-serving idol can silently coordinate with one of South Korea's most influential corporate figures within a context involving high-stakes fashion diplomacy is nothing short of astonishing. Are we, as viewers and consumers, surrendering our skepticism in exchange for narrative satisfaction? Let us examine the fundamental inconsistencies. Firstly, why would such a strategically sensitive meeting occur in a location known to be monitored by press and paparazzi? Why would Jimin, whose movements are strictly regulated during military service, be permitted to participate in an off-the-record engagement of this magnitude without triggering protocol violations or administrative scrutiny? Furthermore, what motive could Bang Si Hyuk have in placing himself so publicly alongside an enlisted idol if the meeting was truly intended to remain confidential? Each of these questions leads to one unavoidable conclusion. Either this encounter was a genuine breach of standard procedure, an unprecedented risk taken by two highly strategic individuals, or it was a deliberate construction, carefully curated to appear as a leak, but designed in full awareness of public reaction, and the absence of concrete information. What remains is interpretation. Interpretation driven by selective image releases, vague social media captions, and suggestive symbolism, such as the J, embroidered on a velvet Dior box. Are these elements indicative of a larger truth, or are they merely tools within a sophisticated marketing architecture? What is even more concerning is how quickly audiences are prepared to accept theory as fact. Is the potential collaboration between Dior and Jimin truly imminent? Or is the idea being seeded through subtle provocations designed to test public interest and brand engagement? Was Bang Si Hyuk's single-word tweet eternal, an organic expression of legacy, or a calculated component in a multi-layered promotional strategy? Such questions cannot be answered through excitement or emotion. They require detachment. They require evidence. And at this stage, there is none. To be clear, this is not a denial of possibility. It is a rejection of passive consumption. It is entirely plausible that Dior and HYBE are in active collaboration. It is equally plausible that Jimin, given his immense global recognition and cross-market appeal, has been identified as a viable cultural figurehead for a new transnational luxury initiative. But what remains deeply problematic is the speed with which such assumptions are accepted and disseminated as reality, without interrogation. Who controls this narrative? Is it the fans, whose interpretations generate online virality? Is it the media, whose repetition of unverified claims constructs a perceived consensus? Or is it the corporations themselves, using strategic ambiguity as a means of guiding public imagination while retaining plausible deniability? This is not merely a discussion about one idol and one executive. It is a commentary on the mechanisms of influence in an era where visibility equals validation, where a single Instagram story can shift stock valuations, where silence becomes louder than confirmation. To that end, we must ask ourselves, is the mystery surrounding Jimin and Bang Si Hyuk authentic, or is it scripted? Are we observing history in the making, or are we participating in a grand illusion shaped by algorithms and brand psychology? Are the images and narratives we consume the result of organic media coverage, or are they being engineered to evoke specific emotional and economic responses? Let it be stated clearly, the sources of this narrative are not institutional records or verified testimonies. They are fragments, collected from social media platforms, eyewitness accounts, and speculative commentary. While this does not invalidate the story, it demands that we approach it with extreme caution. In an age where sensationalism often overrides substance, and where emotional reaction is prioritized over analytical reasoning, it becomes imperative that audiences exercise restraint and critical evaluation. The very structure of this discourse, with its calculated teases, symbolic leaks, and convenient silence, is textbook in its execution of viral strategy. Again we ask, is this real, or are we being used? As the lines continue to blur between entertainment, influence, and commercial ambition, we must reflect on our role not just as consumers of culture, but as its validators. Do we reinforce speculative narratives simply because they excite us, or are we prepared to demand transparency, verification, and accountability? To those reading this, your belief shapes markets. Your perception affects legacy. And your reaction defines what is rewarded in this media economy. If we wish to understand what truly occurred behind those tinted SUV windows in Yongsan, we must be willing to pause, resist the comfort of assumption, and confront the unsettling possibility that this entire moment may not be what it seems. Because in the silence that follows spectacle, the most dangerous force is not misinformation. It is unchallenged belief. Thank you